start with Bedlam.
Good evening and welcome to Late Night College Football Week 10 Recap with yours truly, Jackson Johnson, and this wonderful man next to me, the host of Sports Talk with Austin Williams. How you doing, good sir?
I'm doing wonderful, Jackson, especially after my Cards picked up a dominant W today over the Virginia Tech Hokies, and now we own sole possession of second place in the ACC. And all we need to do is just finish it out. 2 more wins. Let's get it done. Let's go play Florida State and Charlotte.
Oh, there you go. Let's get it on, man. I am all set for that game. And tonight we will start this recap show with the last edition of the Bedlam rivalry. That was a fantastic game right there. I mean, if you haven't heard the name Ollie Gordon, well, you have now. Oh, man.
Yeah. What a turnaround for Oklahoma State. I have to preface, I'll be honest, I was flipping back and forth between this game and my game of Louisville and Virginia Tech, but I caught a lot of it, especially during the half times and the commercials. And Oklahoma, they just didn't look the same today. Dylan Gabriel had a lot of pressure in his face. He turned the ball over a couple times. And OU just didn't look like OU today. It seemed like the pressure got to them, that they were playing tense all day long. And I feel like, for me, Oklahoma had a big chance here to show the world, hey, let's show the world, hey, we're legit contenders, not only in the Big 12, but still to make the CFP. But they blew it. It's done. It's over. Yeah. As for the Big 12, they could still possibly win if they get some tomfoolery to go their way, as we like to say around here, because it happened with Utah last year in the Pac-12, which we'll get to the Pac-12 later. But Oklahoma can still make the Big 12 championship, but it's going to be extremely difficult because they do not hold any tiebreakers except over Texas, and it seems like Texas ain't going to drop any games anytime soon, but it would be the Texas thing to do.
Well, they could drop one at TCU
or all SUVs to follow.
They could drop one against Iowa State or TCU. I mean, they have been known to trip up some places, like you said.
Yeah, that is true. But, we're going on about Oklahoma. I had to give my love to Oklahoma State. After they lost to South Alabama, a lot of people, including myself, kind of wrote them off, said, is it maybe time for Mike Gundy to think about maybe retirement, not fire, but retire? He's been there a while. Maybe it's time for Oklahoma State to adapt to a new system. And lo and behold, here they come. All of a sudden, they're all of a sudden in Big 12 contention, and maybe even an NY6 game if they can continue to win out the way that they're going. And like you said, Jackson, Ollie Gordon, I mean, where's this man's votes for the Heisman? Because if I was a voter, he'd get all my votes at the moment. I know that's a quarterback-driven award, but let's give some respect to Ollie Gordon. That dude is a monster. I wouldn't want to try to tackle him. That's all I got to say on that.
No, I mean, it was a ballroom blitz for Ollie, man. I mean, he had 137 rushing yards and 2 TDs. And, I mean, Alan Bowman, even though he didn't throw any touchdowns today, he had 334 passing yards, 28 of 42 completed passes, and he had 1 rushing touchdown. How about that? I mean, amazing.
Yeah. And you know what makes this even sweeter, Jackson? I know you're going to get into this in just a second, but I bet you Big Noon Kickoff and College Game Day are looking at this and saying, shoot, we should have picked this game. Why did we pick Bama LSU?
It should be.
Go ahead, Jackson.
I know Big Noon Kickoff was impressed by Kansas State, Texas, and believe me, I'm impressed by it too. And I know College Game Day was impressed by Bama LSU, but Bama got out this little thing called the belt and gave LSU the spanking. That's what they did in the fourth quarter, man. They gave LSU that spanking. And you're going to tell me that you're not putting the last edition of the Bedlam on game day, or at least on Big Noon Kickoff. Really? I mean, I know Oklahoma State lost South Alabama, but they've done a lot since then. They smacked Kansas. They smacked Kansas State. Oklahoma's been magnificent, although they did lose to Kansas, but still, Kansas is not your daddy's Kansas where they were looking pitiful all the time. This is the last edition of the Bedlam where both teams were in a 5-way tie for first place. And if Oklahoma State won in Stillwater, they were going to have the last laugh. And Oklahoma's going to be knocked out of playoff contention. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, Jackson. I just think, media's perception can be kind of turned because that South Alabama loss does not look good. And it doesn't. I don't think me or you are going to sit here and say, oh, that's not a bad loss. That is a bad loss. You're at home and you got trounced. You can't let that happen. Yes, but we also have to take into account, look at what Oklahoma State has done since then. They've beaten West Virginia. They've beaten Kansas, beaten K-State. And they keep rattling wins off one after the other. And they seem to get better and better as the days go along. And Mike Gundy was left for dead by all of us, including me. And here he is. He just beat Oklahoma in the last edition of the Bedlam. All the momentum going in his way. Look out. Oklahoma State is on the rise back up. And could they put him? Go ahead, Jackson.
I just hope that Oklahoma State doesn't slip up against Central Florida next week because they're going to Central Florida next Saturday, and knowing Central Florida, they can be that perfect trap game when need be. I mean, nobody talking about Central Florida. That means they will pull off an upset in some way. Not saying it'll happen, but that's just how it is when you go against a Gus Malzahn coach team.
Yeah, and from Oklahoma's perspective, they're going to look to bounce back this upcoming weekend. Hopefully they can get it done, but they got Old Country Roads and West Virginia. Yep. Neil Brown looking really good right now. They had their bumps in the road, but it seems like they figured it out, and here they come now. Oklahoma does not have an easy schedule either. They still got BYU, and then they got TCU. They could lose their next 3 possibly.
Oh, man. Well, I don't think it's going to get that bad, Austin, but they could lose 1 of the 3. No one knows you. Who knows?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, they're going at BYU. That's potential, but you're more than likely, right? They'll more than likely either win all 3 or go 2 out of 3. I don't think it's going to be that bad. I have to agree with you. If it gets that bad, oh boy. Oklahoma fans may be calling for Brent Venables' job and throwing the baby out with the bathwater again.
Yeah. I mean, that would be a bad move throwing out Venables. I mean, he's a great coach. He's a good coach. But, I mean, the record may not show it yet, but it'll get there. It'll get there.
But, Jackson, another important game that took place within the Big 12 today, how about Kansas State, Texas? Texas,
oh, man.
You scare me. I had picked you, and I had confidence you were going to take care of business. You were up 27-7, and I was like, oh, Texas is going to cruise to victory. Here we go. and then you let them come back.
I mean, good grief. You almost blow it in less than 5 minutes, at the end of the third quarter. Good grief. It's just not good. It's a bad look. I mean,
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Now, what I find interesting is Kansas State had a chance to tie it in regulation. They missed the 27-yard field goal. Oh,
yeah.
Kansas State. How does that like I was
But
just go ahead, Jackson.
but luckily they did force a 3 and out, and they were able to get a second chance.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this. Kansas State went for it on 4th down in overtime. Right decision or wrong decision? Would you have done that if you were in their shoes, Jackson?
I'm probably in the minority, but I'm taking chances in big games like this.
Because here's the thing with me. I'm in the mindset of you only gave up 3. And I get it. You want to go for the win. You want to end it now. But I feel like in this situation, take the field goal and play for another overtime. And I understand, you get tired and things happen. We've seen that a lot. And teams make those decisions like LSU last year against Alabama. They could have easily went for the tie, but they went for 2 because they were tired and didn't want to play another overtime with Bama. And they ended up paying off. This was just one of those things that just didn't pay off for Kansas State. I don't blame them for making that decision, but if it was up to me, I would have said, let's kick the field goal and let's see if we can hold them one more time. But I understand why you do it. It's because you're either tired or you just don't think you could stop the other team. Because Texas, up to that point, had been scoring at ease until Kansas State came roaring back.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't wait to see when Quinn Ewers gets back from his injury recovery. Then it's really going to get ugly for everybody in the Big 12.
Now, how long is he out for, Jackson? Have they gave an official status report on that yet?
None that I know of, but I'll definitely find it for sure.
But yeah, another big game in the Big 12, Jackson, a potential trap game scenario. How about Lance Leopold and the Kansas Jayhawks?
Oh my God, they've been amazing. Holy cow. Oh man.
Now, is it fair, Jackson, to say Kansas is legitimate? That they are now officially a football and a basketball school?
I think it's fair to say that. I mean, why not?
And another thing, too, is I have to say Jason Bean, for as much crap as I gave him, he has impressed me. I mean, I thought without Jalen Daniels back there for Kansas, they would fall apart. But Jason Bean has been able to right the ship, been able to keep Kansas in games, and they're 7-2. The first time their first 7-win season since 2008. Isn't that crazy?
It's amazing, man. I mean, I want to see them get a 10-win season now.
And I mean, looking at their schedule, it's very possible. They got Texas Tech, Kansas State, and Cincinnati. They could get to 10. They can get to 10, I think. It's not unattainable.
Well, I mean, I had these guys going 9-3 in the preseason, so it makes perfect sense.
Now, the only question I have is the Big 12 championships out of reach? Or is there a path for them to get there?
They will probably need at least Texas or Oklahoma State to lose twice. So they're going to have
That's a good point. Yeah, because Oklahoma State owns the tiebreaker. Yeah.
Mhm.
So if you're a Kansas fan, root against Oklahoma State. Sorry, locked on Oklahoma State. But if you're a Kansas fan, that's what you need to happen.
Yeah. So that's what's gonna happen. I mean, Kansas will have to win out, and they're gonna need Oklahoma State. Let's see, lose against Central Florida and lose against Houston. So anything could happen. I mean, the Big
Yeah,
12 is a weird conference.
yeah. Anything can happen. I mean, any given Saturday. But
Yeah.
another interesting thing is, how about Iowa State? Their turnaround after losing 10-7 to Ohio, and now they're able to be where they're at in the season. And
Oh man.
it's very interesting.
Oh man, it was. I mean, they got whipped by Oklahoma, of course, which that's what's going to happen. But you know that amazing beatdown of the runner-ups of the defending runner-ups college football, TCU. Then you got Cincinnati and Baylor. You beat them. Keep it close, but no cigar against Kansas. But you got a chance to clinch bowl eligibility still. Next Saturday on Big 12 After Dark versus BYU. And you got a chance to be a little trap game for Texas on the week before rivalry week. And you got the Armageddon against Kansas State.
I mean, yeah, they could still clinch bowl eligibility. I don't think it's out of the realm. I mean, beating Kansas would have helped them immensely get to the Big 12 title game, but it is what it is. I mean, at least maybe they can go bowling. But Jackson, I know you've been waiting all night to talk about this Jackson. But let's talk about that belt whooping that you put on LSU. That way, Brian Kelly and LSU can finally hush for a minute.
I was gonna say LS who?
Yeah, LSU. And ever since before I let you unleash Jackson and give your take on it since it's your team, I want to put this out here real fast. For every LSU fan who said they are going to surpass Alabama, that Brian Kelly's a better head coach than Nick Saban, that and everybody that said that in the LSU fan base, it's time for you to take your seat again, because Alabama once again shows that Nick Saban is on another level. But go ahead, Jackson.
I will say 4 rushing touchdowns by Jalen Milroe. I mean, it was a ball and blitz from the running game.
These fries and rings.
At BK, you can build your combo.
Yeah, I agree. It was.
Yeah, I mean, Jace McClellan, I mean, great game by him. Rodell Williams, great game by him. Unfortunately, Jaden Daniels did get a big injury tonight. You know, that was a problem there. So I hope he's doing okay. I hope he's all right for next Saturday against Florida, but I say rest him as much as possible.
Yeah, and Jackson, one of the interesting things is, I'm sure you were keeping your eyes on this. Do you think that should have been a targeting call on a Dallas Clark, I believe it was, who hit Jalen Daniels? I believe it was. I could be wrong. But do you think that should have been a targeting call, or do you think that was a clean hit?
That is something I'll definitely have to look at more for sure. But I'm just like, it was bad.
Yeah. Here's the thing, too. I don't know if this was Alabama's offense coming to life or if this was LSU's defense being that bad. I don't know. I don't want to discredit you guys because it was a great night. But
I think it's a little bit of both. That's what I think.
like, I don't want to discredit you guys, meaning Alabama, because Jalen Milroe played out of his mind, but we've seen LSU's defense is not very good. I don't know which defense is worse, LSU's or USC's. We'll get to them in just a darn minute, but on LSU, good brother, can y'all stop anything? I mean, Alabama offense has not been that potent. I mean, they barely beat Arkansas, who's 3-6. And now, Arkansas would be better if they were a little more healthy, and whatever's going on, they get that fixed. But Alabama has been in so many close games this year that it's not even funny against teams they should be running out of the building. And LSU is giving up a buttload of points that it's not even funny either. And I don't know which is which. But all we'll say is congratulations to Alabama fans. You have re-presumed your position on the throne. You are now the Tiger Kings of the SEC. But I will say, important note on this.
I hope Joe Exotic's okay with that title. Like, be like, hey, Tiger King, Joe Exotic, can we borrow your title for a little bit? It's just for this season. Trust me.
Yeah, but an interesting point I wanted to bring up to you. Does Alabama have a chance to make the playoffs after tonight? Especially with the way Georgia's looked. We'll get to them in just a second, but
I think Alabama's a playoff team. I mean, honestly, they are. I mean, it looks like they could win the SEC.
Ooh. You heard it here, folks. Jackson calling it. His Tide might win the SEC. Okay. Okay. A little spicy take tonight.
Yeah. There we go. I'm throwing out those little takes. But I will tell you, one game that was really coming to mind for me was tonight's USC-Washington game. But first, before we get to that, we're going to throw out a little update. Arizona is leading 17-7 against UCLA at the tail end of the third quarter. And with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, Oregon State is leading 23-12 against Colorado. Oh, another update, UCLA kicks a 29-yard field goal, and it's good. And Arizona is leading 17-10. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. We get back to our talk on Washington USC. What was your take on this game, Austin?
Honestly, Jackson, I'm not going to take anything away from Washington and Michael Penix. They play great. But let's be honest. They didn't do this against Oregon. We'll see what they do next weekend against Utah. But Washington, like, on the ground, they were terrific. Through the air, they were terrific. They had it going on both ends tonight. But part of me thinks that it's because USC's defense is awful. Like, I don't mean to be rude or disrespectful to the Trojan fans out there, but you all need a new defensive coordinator quick in a hurry.
They're mad as a hornet. They're mad as a cottonmouth about that defense, man. I mean, they are mad as a big old cottonmouth. They are throwing out the Grinch out the door. I mean, I think honestly, they've already thrown his butt out. They just haven't made it official yet. I mean, you can't be allowing 572 total yards in a single game. You can't do that. That's bad.
I mean, and the worst part about it is, Jackson, is people want to blame, the USC offense. Like, USC's offense didn't play good enough. You look at the statistics, Caleb Williams is doing everything in his humanly power to put this team on his back with his offense and to get them over the edge, but their defense can't stop nobody. Like we said it last week, Jackson. 49 points to Cal? What is wrong with you, USC? Like, I hope for the sake of our Trojan guys over the Voice of College Football on the Voice of College Football USC channel, go check them out. Great stuff. But Tim, Tony, and Rick, I hope y'all get rid of Alex Grinch for your sake, because this is getting to be too much.
Well,
If he is still got to – go ahead, Jackson.
That's not all. The editor of Trojan's Wire, Matt Zemek, has suggested for the strength and conditioning coach to go as well, because there's not a whole lot of strength, and there's just not a lot of strength at USC at the moment, from what it seems.
I mean, here's the thing, Jackson. I want to quote our good buddy Jeffrey from When We Talk Sports. Can you name me a team? And this is a legitimate question, Jackson. Can you name me a team who has had this bad of a defense and still been able to win a national championship? Can you think of one that comes to mind at the moment?
Not at the moment, no.
And people don't realize, people are like, oh, the offense looks beautiful. Caleb Williams, Heisman winner. That's cool. But you got to have a defense if you want to win anything. Like, I understand. USC, greatest show on turf, all that, whatever you want to coin them, that's fine. Or the second generation with all their legendary receivers following their father's footsteps, all that. But once again, I'm going to harp on this. You need a defense to win a championship. I will point this out simply. Alabama, Georgia, they're prime examples. Especially Alabama had one of the best offenses maybe in college football history in 2020. But their defense was good enough to ensure that they could hold teams to under 30, under 20 points most of the time. Same with Georgia. Their offense was pretty good last year, and the year before that came along but at the end. But they had a generational defense to go along with it. And last year, they had a pretty good defense. USC, you have a great offense. Some may even say it's the greatest offense in Pac-12 history, if you want to go that far with it. But you need a defense, USC, for crying out loud. One last time, USC, you need a defense. Point blank. But enough about my USC and their defense. Let's talk about Washington, Jackson, because we can't overshadow what they did. 52 points. And the rushing stats, whoo! Washington, you could stop now if you like. But be careful, Washington. Oh, go ahead, Jackson.
316 rushing yards. I mean, that's big.
Mm-hmm. And 4 rushing touchdowns. Woo! Washington's offense is looking good. Now, my question to you, Jackson, is we know USC's defense is terrible, but should we start being concerned about Washington's defense after tonight?
I think we should, because, I mean, you can't be having that kind of a game in the near future. And I will say, let's look at the rest of the schedule real quick. I mean, I know Washington State looks a little bit easier, but they're not going to be afraid to play spoiler. But before that, they got to go to Corvallis, Oregon to go play Oregon State. That's going to be a tough cookie. And then there's Utah. I mean, nobody talks about Utah. They're dangerous when nobody talks about them. So Washington for that Utah defense. I mean, I know Utah's offense isn't exactly the Kansas City Chiefs. I know that, but still, though, it's that defense. It'll bite you like a chicken nugget.
Yeah. And here's the interesting thing, Jackson, which we'll talk about this game next week on our show, but I want to see how Washington does with Utah, because in all seriousness, this is probably going to be the best defense they faced all year, because no disrespect to Oregon, But Utah's defense don't give up very many points. They don't allow many things to happen. As Oregon, they have shown they have some weaknesses in their secondary. But their D-line is pretty good. But I just think Utah will probably be the best defense they're going to face. And if Washington could score 30, 40 on the Utah defense, then we may be talking that Washington's offense may be better than USC's. Maybe. I don't want to take it that far yet because USC's offense is pretty daggone good. But I'll be interested to see that game.
Yeah, I mean, one other game I'm definitely looking forward to next Saturday is USC Oregon. I mean, I know USC looks like they're out of conference play, but they're not. They still got to say all they got to do is beat Oregon, and then bam, they're still in it. They got that little head-to-head win over Oregon, but we're going to have quite a commotion for second place.
Yeah. And last point real quick, Jackson, on Washington. I said this in my preview, and I'll continue to say this. Washington is flying a little too close to the sun, in my opinion, because barely beating Stanford, barely beating Arizona State, giving up as many points as they did to USC. They're just lucky USC doesn't have a defense. Is next week the week that they get caught, Jackson? Because the old saying goes, if you're flying a little too close to the sun, it can burn you. Is next week the week the sun gets the Huskies, so to speak?
That's a good question. I mean, we don't know. I mean, it's not what we know. It's what we don't know. Utah, Oregon State's going to be one of them.
But speaking of flying a little too close to the sun, Jackson, boy, oh boy, Georgia, you are not the Georgia of old. You keep messing around with your food, you're going to get bit.
Yep. You don't mess with no dog food. I mean, that's a no. But I will say Carson Beck had a pretty good game. 21 of 32 completed passes, 254 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Wow. I mean, that's pretty big right there.
Yeah. And I will say, too, Jackson, I think it's fair to say Missouri's legit. I think they proved today that they can hang with anybody. Because this was going to be win, lose, or draw. This was going to be their, okay, Missouri, let's see how legit you truly are. Are you just the team that got by and surprised some teams because they didn't see you coming? Or are you actually legit and are going to be a team that's going to be there at the end? And today they showed that, hey, we're almost there. We're not quite there, but we're almost there. We're almost. They hung in with Georgia for the longest time, but then the Dogs defense took over at the end.
Oh, man. I mean, it looked like it was going to be a Missouri upset for a moment, but it didn't happen, but it almost did. I mean, you said, I remember in the preseason, like weeks before the season started, you said that you talked with somebody and said that Missouri could, they said to you that Missouri could pull a fast one on Georgia, and you were like, really?
Yeah.
Georgia?
I actually talked to one of my buddies, and he's a big Missouri fan. Shout out to him. And he was like telling me, I think we could be able to get Georgia. And I looked at him and I said, you got to be crazy. What is wrong with you? I can understand if you want to say Florida, Kentucky, all them. But when he said Georgia, I thought he got hit in the head one too many times there, Jackson. But lo and behold, maybe he knew something I didn't. Because they almost got him. They almost did. They almost got him. They almost got him. if they wouldn't have turned the ball over, the 2 times that they did, I believe, they might have won. They might have, but you can't go back and change the past.
That is true indeed. But how about the rest of their schedule? I mean, do you think we could see Missouri go to a New Year's Six Bowl? And I'll do you one better. If Missouri and Kansas go 10-2, do you think we could see a Missouri-Kansas rivalry reunion in a New Year's Six Bowl? Think about that now.
Oh, that could be interesting. Ooh, they got Tennessee at home next week. Tennessee at home, Florida at Arkansas. Ooh, okay. Oh, those are not easy games.
Yeah, but
Luckily for them, they're not. Go ahead.
But I mean, Tennessee, this looks like a trap for Tennessee right there because they got Georgia after this. Then we got Florida. The road is not exactly kind to Billy Napier. And Arkansas, they certainly have not been one of the best, unfortunately.
No, poor Arkansas. We had such high hopes for him, Jackson. Me and you both had him going 8-4, and that's just not going to happen. But I tell you what, Jackson, a team that almost fell into the trap today was Ole Miss. I don't know if you caught any of that, but that was a thrilling game.
Oh my God, I watched bits and pieces of that. I mean, it's another one that Jimbo let get away.
The one thing we can never get more of is time.
Yeah, it's just, I was watching that and I was thinking, I was like, okay, let's see how Ole Miss comes out. This will tell us if they're looking possibly ahead to Georgia. And they look really good at the beginning. And then towards the end, I'm like, oh boy, here comes Ole Miss, the Ole Miss we know and love. They're going to blow this, aren't they? But they didn't. To their credit, they fought. They kept it close. And then they got the touchdown to take the lead. And I'm thinking, okay, Ole Miss, it's on your defense. And then what happened? Texas A&M gets a field goal position and missed it. And I'm like, such a way to end it. Heartbreak for Texas A&M. A missed field goal out of all things, Jackson. Such a Texas A&M way.
I mean, that field goal was just a bit outside.
I will say this, though, Jackson. Speaking of the Jacksons, Jackson Dart, if I had a ballot on the Heisman, I'm putting his name in there. What a season that kid's having. No one talks about him, but this kid's got explosive written all over him. He can run. He's got a heck of a cannon for an arm. And, it just goes to show, and he doesn't turn over the ball as much as he has in years past. I think this is the best he's played. Look at that statistics through what is it, almost 10 games now? That's Heisman-like numbers. His worst game, Jackson, was against your boys at Bama. Yeah. That was his worst game. And even then, that wasn't even that bad. Your defense was just that much better. I think Jackson Dart should be in the Heisman conversation, but since he's at Ole Miss, he doesn't get that love, which is very disappointing.
Well, somebody's going to give him some love eventually. We are, that's for sure. We're watching for him.
Yeah. You want to know something else, Jackson? Something else that needs some love. How about them Clemson Tigers? Let's give them some love, shall we? And I got to get this off my chest real fast. Notre Dame, this is why I don't pick you. You let me down every time. I can't trust you. I cannot trust you to save my life. You get a big win versus USC, then you thump Pitt, and everyone's got hype around you, and everyone's thinking, oh, Notre Dame might have an outside shot of making the NY6 bowl, and then you do this. Jackson, Take it away.
I mean, had it not been for Notre Dame's defense, this score would be a lot worse. Because, I mean, Notre Dame's defense bailed them out quite a lot today.
Yeah,
I mean, how about that?
I agree.
Oh, man. How about that?
Go ahead, Jackson.
That interception by Xavier Watts? 33 yards. Wow. And then it turns into a touchdown in one play by Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Sam Hartman throwing 2 picks on the day and a $146 through the air. Notre Dame, what is wrong with your offense? You're very one-dimensional here lately.
Gerard Parker.
You thought because, I mean, I guess the estimate worked really well last week against Pitt, but good grief. It doesn't mean it's going to work every week. You got to change it up. You can't just be one-dimensional and say, here, estimate, run up the middle, and let's see how many tackles you break. And maybe they'll fear you enough that we can get Sam Hartman a clean pocket. No, you got to clean it up. You got to think outside the box. I'm not saying you have to do like 6 flea flickers into a run pass option. Nothing like that. But just be a little more creative. Make the defense fear you. Like I get it. Notre Dame's not built that way. Their bread and butter is run the ball defense. Well, that only gets you so far. And, you know, Jackson, we were talking about USC, about how they need a defense because their offense can't do it all. Notre Dame needs to fix their offense because their defense can't do it all. They're like Iowa, which we'll get to them in just a second. But they're like Iowa. They need an offense.
I mean, Gerard Parker at Notre Dame, he's just going to have to go.
I tell you what, Jackson, before we move on, though, let's give a little love to Clemson. It's been a rough year. Everyone was writing off Dabo Swinney, and Clemson gets a big-time victory in the win column, and Clemson's 5-4. They may not be winning the ACC this year, but they could still go 8-4 and make a decent bowl game. I mean, this is something to build towards. But if Clemson wants to fix these issues, they got to get in the transfer portal and fix it. And you know, it was something that they brought up on All ACC today with the guys, that Clemson, they need to lean on their run game and just play some defense. Do what Notre Dame does best, but don't rely on it too heavily, because then you get complacent and then it costs you games. Just like the team we're about to mention here in just a second, Iowa. Their defense is spectacular, one of the best in the country, but then their offense, how do I say this nicely, Jackson?
It's pitiful.
Would garbage be nice?
Horrible. It is terrible, horrible, and no good, and very bad. I mean, it's just I mean, so is Northwestern today. I mean, let's look at the stat. Oh my God, they got 169 total yards on offense. Iowa does, and Northwestern has 170 total yards on offense. Oh my God, 65 passing yards. Really? 81 passing yards? It's like somebody's like really bad at Madden or something.
Jackson, I think Iowa took our statement too heart, good buddy. When we said you need a defense to win championship, that doesn't mean get rid of your offense. You still need offense. It just helps to have at least a decent defense to stop somebody every now and then. Iowa, you're taking things to heart, literally. Really? 10 points, Iowa? 10? I get it. If it works for you, great. But how do you expect to compete with the big boys when you play Michigan, Ohio State, and when Oregon, Washington, USC, UCLA come to town in the Big Ten? How do you expect to compete? This is pitiful. You almost lost to Northwestern. Oh my gosh, Jackson! I feel like after watching the Iowa's offense, I feel like I need to reassess what I watch, because this is giving me too much sadness. Good grief!
Let's look at the Big Ten West for a moment. I mean, good grief! Oh man, did I go too high? Anywho, well, as we know, Minnesota lost to Illinois today, so things got pretty ugly against Illinois. Wisconsin lost to Indiana today. Nebraska lost to Michigan State today. But, however, 3 of those teams are still in division contention. But it's like no one wants to play Michigan or Ohio State or Penn State. I mean, I'd be getting my butt beat by Indiana too if I had to go play Michigan in the Big Ten title. I mean, good grief.
Jackson, it's like they're playing hot potato. The music's just going around. They're like, no, you have it. No, you have it, Iowa. No, we don't want it. Here, Minnesota, you go have it. No, you have it. Let's give it to someone else. Oh, here, Nebraska, you're finally good. Here, you have it. And it's like they're passing around like a hot potato.
I mean, I would say, there's always the Pop-Tart Bowl, but that doesn't have a tie-in to the Big Ten. So, I mean, I don't even know if they're good enough for the Holiday Bowl, which I doubt it. Well, unfortunately, there's not a Big Ten team there. So, that's Pac-12 and ACC just for this year. So,
yeah. And unfortunately for Iowa, they're going to end up in the Music City Bowl against Kentucky again.
Oh, they'll have a good time there. I mean, they'll be partying and having fun. Man. Oh,
and the game will be a rousing 3-0 victory over Kentucky. Woo!
That's just But, we got to see a college football game in Wrigley Field, even if it's only on our streaming devices. So, I mean, that's pretty cool.
It is. It's cool. Hopefully they continue this in the future with all the realignment and stuff. But hopefully they do. But Jackson, on to some actual. Go ahead.
Well, we know next Saturday Pittsburgh Syracuse is going to be at Yankee Stadium, so that's going to be magnificent.
Yeah, and you know something, Jackson? I'm glad you brought up Pittsburgh. Boy, oh boy. Did they give Florida State a scare there for a while? Jackson, what is your old saying? Pittsburgh is where ranked teams go to die. And Florida State almost fell into that. Almost. They're lucky they have Jordan Travis, or it could have gotten ugly.
And Florida State fans, you get to come at me again, because, I mean, I said in the preseason, you guys are going to be losing to Pitt, Florida, Clemson, and LSU. But Florida State's proved me wrong. I will tell you that. I mean, Florida State's like, we're going to see what this guy has to say, and we're using it for motivation. They have.
And Jackson, with this victory, Florida State has got a guaranteed spot in Charlotte for the ACC championship. Now they await who gets second place. And as it sits at the moment, second place belongs to. Hold on, let me get the attire out for this, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go.
You're looking at it.
Oh yeah.
currently sitting right behind them is my Louisville Cardinals. 2 more wins, and we'll see you in Charlotte.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
But
Florida
we cannot
State
overlook.
scoring
Oh, go ahead, Jackson.
Florida State scoring 24 unanswered points, and next Saturday is their last conference game of the season. The Miami Hurricanes. So,
Jackson, I just have this feeling that, everyone's talking about Florida State, that they're the best team by far in the ACC, and there's no competition. But I have a feeling that we may have something to say about that, as long as we don't slip up to Miami or Virginia on Thursday. I feel like we might have something to say to them about that. Have you seen what we've been doing? Look at that beautiful score right there, ladies and gentlemen. 34-3. We beat the red hot Virginia Tech Hokies. I mean, Isaac Guerrero had a career day on the ground, 3 tutties. Jack Plummer looked good, even though he didn't have to throw the ball that often. Defense creating havoc. Coming into the year, I said 8-4. That's my prediction. If we do anything better than that, I would be beyond ecstatic. And here we sit at 8-1, Jackson. And unless something goes haywire, we might be 11-1 going into Charlotte, as long as we take care of business. But I'm just excited. This is the first time I could say in a long time since Lamar Jackson we're competing for something. And Jackson, I give you all the credit, because when Jeff Brown was hired, I was not sure what I was getting. But as you told me, you were like, Austin, don't you worry, good buddy. You're going to be happy with this hire, and he's going to lead you to greatness. Don't you worry. And as you can see, year 1, we could be at greatness right there. But,
I mean, this is going to be greater than the Charlie Strong years and the first stint of the Bobby Petrino era combined. That I'm guaranteeing right now.
Yes. I hope it is too, Jackson, because as a lifelong Louisville fan, I've been waiting for something like this. But I got to keep it optimistic, though. Don't want to get too out of hand too quick. We got to take care of business Thursday night against Virginia. And like I said, Miami. And we still got Kentucky. Can't get too high off one win. Got to keep it focused. We got more wins to get.
Well, there was somebody that almost slipped up in Big Ten country today, and it was on CBS. I'll be honest, I'm not so much amazed by Ohio State being on CBS. I still get amazed by Rutgers being on CBS, let alone a second time this season. I sometimes forget that Rutgers Northwestern was on CBS. I'm literally not joking.
Yeah. Rutgers was hanging in there for a while, and then Ohio State said, okay, Rutgers, that's enough. We've made you look good enough. Time for us to spank you.
Yeah, especially in the third quarter. This is when this little thing came out. I mean, the Buckeyes, this is what they came out with.
Yeah, they spanked them like they owed them money. Go ahead, Jackson.
Yeah. I mean, that third quarter, I mean, I will say, I don't think Rutgers should have been going for field goals. I think they should have just taken a gamble and gone for the touchdown. I mean, you're going against number 1 Ohio State. You got a chance to make a statement, especially in the birthplace of college football. You have a chance to do something bigger than what you did in 2006.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And unfortunately for Rutgers, It just wasn't their night. They kept it close for as long as they could, but Ohio State's showing once again why they might be the best team in all of college football. But Jackson, how did Michigan do? Did they steal any more signs today? Or what's the deal? What's the deal over there?
Still from Purdue, Purdue was depressed this season. I mean, you kidding me? I mean, where are you gonna steal from Purdue?
Yeah, I don't know. But all joking aside, though, sorry, Michigan fans. But all joking aside, Michigan looked really good tonight. J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum, the defense looked really good. Michigan has been dominant throughout the year, and they just continue to show it tonight in Ann Arbor, showing maybe why you can make the case they're the best team in football. But I will say, Jackson, they didn't have a look-see ahead. They made sure to keep their eyes focused on the prize at hand, and that was Purdue, because they got a big game against Penn State next weekend, which we will talk about on our live show next weekend. But it's very interesting, though, because Purdue has been known to be called the Spoilermakers. Sorry, Ohio State fans, not to throw you under the bus, but you're the most recent to let this happen to you. 2018, you had everything in your hands, and then what happened? Purdue beat you.
It's
and you know, I even told. Oh, go ahead.
It's that one thing, my good friend. They had your boy Jeff Brom back in 2018. Now with Ryan Walters, we don't know what to make of him yet. He's in his first year. Second and third year will be more of a story to tell. We'll know more about Ryan Walters.
That's true, we will. But Purdue, there was no spoiling today. And I will say, though, Jackson, another team that I guess you could say spoiled someone's season, Arkansas spoiling Florida's bowl eligibility. Florida. I had so much hopes for you.
I was surprised Florida lost today. I mean, they usually do good at home, but I guess not. I mean, look at this: 14-0 in the first quarter, and you know it's a tied ball game going into halftime, and then we just see it being a seesaw battle, up and down and up and down, and in overtime we see a field goal from Trey Smack at Florida. Then we see a game-winning touchdown by KJ Jefferson to Tyrone Broden for a 4-yarder.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked too myself, Jackson. I was thinking, Arkansas, they're a decently okay team, especially with KJ Jefferson at quarterback. And I was thinking, Florida should handle it. And then I turn it on, and it's like a tie game, and I'm thinking, oh, no. Florida, I picked you to win, too. See, Jackson, I'm just having terrible luck this weekend picking teams. I picked Notre Dame. I picked Florida. I picked USC to win. Maybe you did better than I did, but...
Well, there's an ongoing debate as to whether Napier's on the hot seat. Now, we know he's not on the hot seat for 2023, but does it look like he's on the hot seat for 2024 if he keeps this up? I mean, let's look at the rest of the schedule, shall we? I mean, they got to go to LSU. They got to go to Missouri. And then at home, there's Florida State. Is there a sixth win, or was that their best opportunity they passed up?
I mean, looking at it, Jackson, looking at that schedule, today might have been their best win for bowl eligibility. Unless they catch LSU napping or catch Missouri napping or maybe catch Florida State looking ahead to the ACC title game, that may have been their best opportunity. in all seriousness, if they would have beaten Arkansas, then we would have been saying, could they get to 7-8 wins? But now I'm looking at this thinking, LSU's going to be mad. Missouri, they're probably going to be mad. And Florida State, they don't want to trip up. That may have been their best chance.
I mean, if they missed a bowl game, they're in trouble for sure. As for Arkansas, let's talk about the hot seat situation for Pittman. I mean, they basically had a dose of reality during the bye week last week, thinking, oh, Jesus, we lose one more game, we're out of bowl eligibility. We got to wait till next year. And we look at the rest of the schedule, and it's all home games. We see that Auburn's coming to Fayetteville, 3 p.m. on the SEC network, 4 p.m. your time, Austin. Then they got Florida International. That looks to be a cinch. And then we got the Black Friday game against Missouri. So, can they reach bowl eligibility with 3 games left? Or are they just going to fall apart in one of them?
Yeah. They're like Florida. That schedule is very interesting because Auburn, they could be a spoiler for a couple teams. FIU, they should win that game. But then again, Jackson, we've seen teams give teams trouble that we don't think should. And then Missouri on Black Friday, crazy things can happen the day after Thanksgiving. Crazy things can happen. But I could see 6-6. They can maybe run the table. Maybe. But if as long as KJ Jefferson stays healthy, they got a shot.
I'm thinking more like, unfortunately, they'll go 5-7, and it's going to be quite a commotion deciding on what happens with Sam Pittman. Because, I mean, the Arkansas fan base is torn. I mean, I'm watching Tuss Talk with Ty Hudson, and shout out to Ty Hudson. Cool dude, by the way. Check him out. That Arkansas fan base is torn apart. They're thinking, what do we do here, Scoop? Do we get rid of Pittman? Do we keep him? Like, they're just like, we don't know what to do. They're debating amongst themselves.
Mm-hmm. Some very interesting things going on here.
But
Go ahead.
But there was a matchup on Friday night that happened. I mean, Boston College, Syracuse. Now, Syracuse, maybe it's just me, but they've forgotten to play football since they lost to Clemson.
Yeah, you could be right, Jackson. You could be right. And I don't know what's worse, Jackson, that Boston College is one of the worst 6-3 teams out there, or Syracuse is just falling apart on you, on everybody. Because you look at Boston College, Jackson, if they go 8-4, 9-3, look at their schedule. Tell me where you see a quality win.
Oh my God. Oh man. It's pitiful. It's pitiful, pitiful, pitiful. I mean, Virginia Tech. This is not our daddy's Virginia Tech. I can tell you that right now. Pittsburgh. They're Pitt, I guess.
Like Jackson, looking at the schedule, tell me you see a quality win on there. Because I know our good buddy Will and D and Jeffrey on their show Mondays have this debate all the time. They tell people, find me a quality win on Boston's college schedule. I don't think you can. Maybe Georgia Tech. Do you consider Georgia Tech a quality win?
Well, if Georgia Tech beats Clemson that Saturday, then yeah. Maybe if Georgia Tech was to beat Georgia, which we know that's not going to happen, then yeah, that would make Boston College look good.
But look at it. They beat Virginia, Army, Georgia Tech, UConn, Syracuse, and barely beat Holy Cross? And you're telling me this team goes 9-3, that Jeff Hafley should win Coach of the Year? What?
Well, I mean, that Louisville loss was a reality check for them. So I mean,
don't get me wrong, Jackson. I'm happy they're doing good because it makes us look a little better, makes that win look a little bit better, but still, we have to face reality. They don't have a quality win. If they would have beaten Florida State, then you could say, okay, Florida State, that's their quality win. But they didn't, so you can't count it. It's like, I'm happy they're winning and making our resume look better. But you can't in good conscience say that they are that they have a good win. Just a good win.
That Army win does make Boston College look good for a little bit as of today. And I'll tell you why in this Nets game, the Army Air Force game. Now, Air Force ranked 25th, unbeaten going into this game. And we see the Air Force has a shot to clinch the Commander-in-Chief trophy. But Army says, wait a minute. You got to beat us. And we would like to spoil your season. And they do. So we see Bryson Daly. He had some great runs today, especially in the first quarter. 62-yard run for a touchdown, 5-yard run. And we can look at the stats. 170 yards, 36 carries, 2 touchdowns. Great day for Mr. Daly. How about that? And it was a 23-3 victory for the Army Black Knights. And Austin was something that I've said about Army anytime they go against a top 25 team. I mean, it's just, they're pretty big. I mean, they always do this against top 25 teams. Never underestimate them.
Yeah, I agree, Jackson. They always do this. Like, Air Force, everyone was talking about them as a possible group of 5 representative in the NY6 Bowls. They're ranked in the first CFP ranking, and then they play Army and get trounced. Like, Army does this every time. Like, we all remember Oklahoma almost blowing it against Army.
28.
I don't know what it is, Jackson. Maybe you can explain it, but I can't.
Jeff Monken,
shocked at
man.
this.
Jeff Monken, he gets them motivated. You know, he gets them going.
Uh-oh. I get it. It's one of those things where you're playing Air Force and you really want to win the Commander-in-Chief Cup, but for heaven's sakes, Army, you were this close to perfection, this close,
Air
but
Force.
You blew it again. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're talking about Army getting close to perfection. You meant Air Force for a moment.
Oh, yes, Air Force. My bad.
Right.
My bad, peeps. Air Force. You were this close, not Army. But
it's just like, good grief. It is
well,
not a good day for Air Force, but maybe they can come back. I mean, there's Hawaii, UNLV. This is not the Boise State of old. And on the bright side, they're still leading the Mount West. So that's good.
Yeah. They could go 11-1. Could, but
But,
Jackson.
um,
But you want to know something good, buddy? Good buddy. How about Fresno State? How did they do this week against Boise?
oh man, they won 37-30 in a tight game, and Mikey Keene had a great game. 24 of 38 completed passes, 290 yards, 1 touchdown. Malik Sherrod had 21 carries, 132 rushing yards, and 1 touchdown. And I mean, Madsen had a pretty good game for Boise, but it was not good enough. I mean, what is going on with Boise State, man? This is bad.
Yeah. I don't know, Jackson. Like, Boise used to be so good, and now they're so meh. Like, they're meh. Like, I know they only lost to Fresno by 7, but oh, Boise, you disappoint me. And score update, everybody. UCLA is losing to Arizona by 3 touchdowns.
Well, that's no surprise there. Do you know the last time Boise State had a losing season, Austin?
2012?
No, 2012 was a winning season. They were 11-2. They won the Mount West that year. 1997. This was in the Big West Conference days. They didn't even join the WAC back then. This was in the first and only year of Houston Nutt as head coach. So that's the last time Boise State has had a losing season. And if they were to have a losing season this season, it'll be the first time since 1997. But let's look at the rest schedule, shall we? They got New Mexico, they got Utah State, and they got Air Force. They can keep the winning season going for another year, but there's always the bowl game. Unless they turn down the bowl game and go, no, we don't want to go. They can always do that, but I doubt they're gonna be that dumb. So,
yeah, I can see that. I mean, but yeah, the score update, as you can see, Arizona is beating UCLA, which, by the way, I picked UCLA, and I'm severely wrong again.
Yeah, Arizona, man.
I should know.
I went with Arizona on that one because I was like, they're gonna beat down UCLA.
Jackson, I should have known they're in the desert. Why didn't I pick them? Jackson, am I seeing that right? What is wrong with Washington State? You lost to Stanford 10-7? What is wrong with you?
I mean, the other day on Twitter when I posted my predictions, I figured Stanford would win 28-20. I just didn't think it'd be 10-7. I mean, this looks more like Iowa Northwestern to me. I mean, I just gotta see. Yep, that's clear.
Jackson, what has happened to Washington State and Cam Ward? There was so much potential there. Cam Ward could have been in the Heisman race, but he blew it.
Here's the problem. They're only relying on Cam Ward. I mean, they don't have a good running game. Their running game is a disgrace, obviously, and they don't have that much of a defense. I mean, it's pitiful. I mean, they had somewhat of a defense today, it seemed, but they allowed
How do you
10
get that
points
mixed
in
with
the
your combo?
second
These fries and
half.
rings?
At BK.
That's pitiful. It's bad. Pitiful.
Yeah, this is just sad. Sad, sad, sad. Washington State losing 10-7 to Stanford. You got to have more offense than that, for crying out loud, for Pete's sakes, but I guess not.
Agreed.
Yeah, Jackson, this is a very disappointing Saturday for some teams, and Washington State's one of them. But I tell you what though, Jackson? Well, you got the conference standings pulled up. Take it away, good buddy.
So we know that next Saturday, as I got the confirmation from FBS schedules, Oregon USC is going to be on at Fox for After Dark, and we're going to see the fight for second place happen right before our eyes. So that's going to be a great game, USC Oregon, but unfortunately, we know USC's not going to have that good of a defense. Bo Nix will run all over them. But it's going to be fun watching Caleb Williams and Bo Nix go at it. Oregon State, they're just kind of waiting in the wings. They're going to beat up on Stanford, no doubt. And Austin, I got to ask you, what happened to Colorado? What happened to them?
Oh, I knew this day was going to come. Oh, prime time. You let me down. You let me down, prime time. I put so much faith into you. But I got to give this shout out to Jeffrey from Only Talk Sports again. He was right. Colorado has no offensive line. Their defense is not very good. And Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter and Xavier Weaver are their offense, because apparently they have no running game. I thought Colorado might go 8-4, but no. It don't even look like they might make a bowl. Oh.
Well, I mean,
But as you have
remember when Colorado State was playing, everybody showed up, College game day, big noon kickoff, the Pat McAfee show, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and even 60 Minutes was showing up. I was hoping like Real Time with Bill Maher and the Joe Rogan Experience would be next, honestly. But, oh well, you can't get everything you wish for.
Well, and as you got the schedule pulled up, I mean, they got Arizona at home and they go at Washington State at Oregon. They just need to win 2 out of their next 3 to have a chance. Could they beat Arizona? They can beat Arizona because this is not in the desert. They're coming to Colorado. Got to keep that in mind.
Oh, for sure. I mean,
can Arizona play away from the desert? That's going to be my question.
That is a very good question, my friend.
And as you can see right now, they're putting a can of whoop butt on UCLA as we speak.
Oh, yeah. They're getting out that bell for sure.
But
Arizona's likely to be 4-10 in conference play.
Looking at their schedule, they got at Colorado, Utah, at Arizona State. Ooh, this is a very 7-5 like schedule. Maybe 8-4. Maybe.
This could be a 9-3 schedule. They could win out, make this happen.
I don't think they could beat Utah. I don't think. But it is in the desert. Crazy things happen. But
exactly.
We shall see. But before we go, Jackson, look, let's promote ourselves, shall we? So let the people know that are on my channel watching this. Let them know where they can find you and everything that you do, good buddy.
Well, you can find me on YouTube at Jackson Johnson 979. And you can find me on Twitter /ets.com. And you can find me on ets.com /at Jackson 0996 0335, I believe. Yep, that's my Twitter account. And you can find me on Instagram and Threads where I'm Jackson Johnson 543908, where you can find my crazy takes and you can find my updates on latest episodes of the Jacksonian. And you can also find my latest episode with Cody Stovall, host of Locked On Oklahoma State, on YouTube and on Twitter. Stay tuned.
Yes, and should be a great week ahead of us for sure, Jackson. But please, everybody, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, click on those notifications for us. Make sure we get our views, and we will be back next weekend for week 11, where we will talk about Florida State, Miami, Penn State, Michigan, Oregon, USC, Utah, Washington. We will talk about all those games and so much more.
Ole Miss, Georgia, don't forget that.
Yes, and Georgia, Ole Miss. How could I forget about the defending champs? And heck, Jackson, you want to talk about Kentucky, Alabama? You want to talk about you beating up the Key Cats?
Sure, why not? It's going to be fun watching butt whipping every now and again.
But until then, this has been Austin Williams of Sports Talk with Austin and my co-host, good buddy Jackson Johnson of the Jacksonian. And we will see you next weekend, same time, same place. And remember, it's always Louisville. Never forget that, kids. Or Alabama if you're on Jackson's channel. But
there we go.
Go